And welcome back to This is Dundermoose. I am your
Dundermoose.
host, the host with the moose most. This is Dundermoose. And so
Off to a great start already.
off to a great we keep it professional here, Liz. Um
Oh, so sorry.
well, most of my if you've been a long-term watcher of the show, and I'm sorry if you have, um I've been kind of on a Bro SR kick for a bit. I've fallen in with a bad crowd. I don't even know if you know who the Bro SR are, Liz. Um,
No.
but I had a dream, and in the dream, I met Joe Manganiello,
Mm,
and
that would
I
be a
met
good
Henry
dream.
Cavill, and I was so excited, and I rushed up, and we started a conversation, and the dream ended with me telling them that they were playing D&D wrong. So
Oh, oh
sometimes it's
no,
okay to
wait, it went
yeah
bad.
yeah. So sometimes it's okay to take a step back from our passions and stuff. So Liz is definitely a D&D player, but I don't think she has anything. She doesn't have any of the Broasar stink on her like I do. Um, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, they have a very certain play style, and they love to go on Twitter and tell people they're playing wrong, and then it gets
Oh
it
yeah,
gets
no.
hot. But anyway, I actually didn't even meet you on Twitter. I
No.
don't know if you're on Twitter at all. I met you on LinkedIn of all places,
Yeah,
and
because we're
it
super
started
cool.
off with writing.
Yes.
So if you want to just tell a little bit of story, this is Liz Riffle, everyone, and just if you want to maybe share your origin story of how you got into writing and how you decided that LinkedIn was the place where you wanted to post little challenges and stuff.
Oh, well, I have always loved writing since I was a little tyke. And it's pretty much well, I thought it was the only thing I was good at. Turns out I'm pretty good at D&D too.
Right on.
Um,
There's
but
some overlap there, right?
oh yeah, well, creative, you know, juices flowing for. I'm much better as a DM than I am as a player. Um, because I really loved like just delving into the stories and the mythology and the lore and
Yeah.
everything like that. But I kind of came into D&D later in life, like I was 27, and the guy I was dating was like playing it with his friends, and I was like, "Oh, what is this thing that you're doing?" And that started me down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
But I was already well into enjoying writing, and um, my husband passed away in 2020, and um, I realized that he had kind of been my life,
Mhm.
and I didn't have a social like network, and I didn't have anybody like I was like, "Well, what do I do when I get my book published? Who the hell's going to read it? They're not even going to know it exists."
Yeah, who's
So
gonna
like
celebrate with you?
I went on LinkedIn and I just started posting stupid shit. Like um word of the day and these random things, and people were like, "This is kind of cool."
Yeah.
And it just kept going, and amazingly enough, nobody knew that I was there for my writing.
So
So
so what type of writing? Are we talking poetry or fiction or like memoir? Like
you don't
what's the
ask
kind
me
that
to do
lights you up?
poetry, it's terrible. It's definitely fiction. Um, Almost everything I write has some sort of fantasy or science fiction
Okay.
lean to it. Like I said, I have always loved mythology and space and uh, just the possibilities of fantasy and magic.
Yeah, Mercurius says, "Not what you expect on LinkedIn," and I suspect that might have been why you stood out to me.
Oh yeah.
Um, I don't remember the first time I came across your stuff. I do remember you'd been putting out writing prompts,
Mhm.
and you had a very interesting one talking about lichen, right?
Oh yeah, I'm
Where it was
liking the
like
liking.
it's a fungus and it's a algae, and they come together, and I had posted a little poem that I wrote
Uh,
based on that, and you're like, hey, love this, and I was like, hey, that's pretty cool, and so I think that might have been the first time I became like,
Yeah, you kind of randomly pop up from time to time, like, say something really clever, and then I'm like, "Oh, hey, yeah, hi, how are you?" And then you, like, totally diss me from that point on, like
well, yeah, I'm really weird with social media. Like I try to do Facebook. Lord knows I try. I can't get through it. Going into face there used to be a store around here in Michigan called Art Van, and you'd go in there and there was just like salespeople walking the floor, like just rotating like sharks looking for bait, and you'd walk in and like they would just descend on you, and it's
Mm,
just like, oh, can we just get in here, get what we need, and get out? Was the feeling I had. And that's how I feel when I go on Facebook. I just go in, I'm like, okay, I'm looking to connect with a certain person, ask them a thing, and then get out. And then like an hour later, I come up from air, hearing everybody's political opinions and seeing all of
yeah.
their breakfasts. They
For
like to take
me,
pictures of food.
it's not even really the social stuff, like, I'm in a lot of D&D Facebook groups,
Hmm.
um, but that happened because I was like, I don't even know why I'm on Facebook. Facebook kind of sucks. I never see any posts from the people I'm connected to. It's always like animal rescue groups and things like
Hmm.
that because that's
Hmm.
another thing that I'm in. Um, and someone was like, "Well, they have like D&D Facebook groups on there," and I was like, "Oh yeah." I'm
You don't
listening.
say. Hmm,
And then
fascinating.
it was like 1 group, 2 groups, 6 groups, I don't even know anymore. And
Yeah.
sometimes I see like the same like 4 posts from the same person because they post into the different groups,
Hmm.
but I'm in those groups, so I see that same post like 20 times a day, and I'm just like, "Oh my god. I hate this meme now."
Yeah. It was funny the first few times, right?
Oh, yeah, and then
Authoritative
someone's like,
news
"I've
network
never
says,
seen this meme before," and I'm like, "I've seen it 60 times in the last 3 days."
uh, ANN says FB is solely for memes reposted from Reddit. I must be
Yeah.
using it wrong. I don't know.
I mean, I steal some of them and put them in my, Discord server, like
Yes.
the D&D ones. I put them in there because 'cause they're funny, like, they actually make me laugh, but,
And your
yeah.
Discord server is humongous.
I mean, it's not humongous.
Well, I guess I'm not big into Discord, but
I
like
mean, there's some servers that have, like, thousands of people in them.
there
So,
are how many games are going in your group? Because you have one section that said DM's looking for player, and you got another
yeah.
is players looking for DM. So you're like
Yeah.
putting together whole tables and people groups and campaigns and stuff just on your
Oh,
Discord.
yeah, I mean, they mostly do it themselves. I facilitate the first 1 or 2 times for new DMs,
Hmm.
but after that, they kind of figure it out themselves, and, there's games going right now, I'm not even in there, like, paying attention, like, it's whatever. Um, like, there's 200 plus people in there, but, like, it's more I feel like it's more community than just random, like, anonymous out in the, you know,
Yeah,
internet. I'm old, I don't know the right cool terms. So
I'm a Gen Xer
you
here
know you know,
as well.
that online interwebs thing, you know? Um, no, like, I actually try to get to know the people that come in there and,
Hmm.
um, to varying degrees, but yeah, they play their games and I play my games, and when we don't have games going, people will start up, one shots, and yeah, it's pretty
Right
active.
on. So, I'm in a bunch of Discords. Usually, every time I get a guest, I get invited to another one, and I gotta say that like the one that has the most constant like communications and notifications popping off on the top is yours. So there's something about your Discord that is like the people that are in there are passionate and active, and they seem to genuinely enjoy interacting with each other. So that's pretty cool. How long have you had the Discord?
Um, I don't know. It's been a couple years, I think.
Hmm.
I just wanted to say real quick because I tried to type in the little commenty thing, and like I said, I'm old and I can't figure it out. Um,
Okay. Were you
Mercurius
typing in
asked,
the private chat perhaps or in the comments?
no, I'm in the comments, but it said I had to connect, and I don't know. That's a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
work. Um,
Well, let me see if
but
there's the settings issue. I'm still getting used to StreamYard as well, so
but me curious asked if I do other games than D&D. I've played other systems, other games.
mhm.
A couple different ones. I've never run anything other than D&D because I'm pretty like I have ADHD, so I
Mhm.
also have like that hyper focus, and so like I become almost like obsessed. So right now
Yeah.
D&D is like borderline obsession.
Well,
Um,
I don't
but
have
yeah.
ADHD, but I do have ADD, and I really appreciate that, like, Advanced Dungeons& and Dragons has the same initial.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't that's a weird connection. I
It
probably
it adds validation
right
a
on,
little bit.
right on. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I get that hyper focus thing where, like, you just, like,
Oh yeah.
zero in on it, and you're like, "Man, this is so fascinating."
Yeah.
So what edition is your flavor?
um this is such a loaded question.
Is it? Oh, okay. I didn't mean that sounds like there's a history there.
You're trying to start shit, okay?
No,
No, I'm kidding.
I might be. Hey, you remember my dream? Remember my
Yes,
dream I told,
yes. How could you talk bad to Joe
told
like that? That's
Joe
the
Manganiello
no.
that he was playing D&D wrong, so it's not my fault. I never should have played with the kids down by the liquor store.
Oh,
Mm,
yeah, well, they're a little rough. Um,
no
no,
judgment
so
here.
I started with 3.5, like I said, I didn't get into it until later. Had I known about the older editions, I probably would have totally been into them. But I didn't. So I didn't really get involved with it till 3.5.
Okay.
And then
And that
I
was a
guess
pretty loved edition, right?
yeah,
3.5?
yeah,
Like, that
it's pretty
kicked off
popular.
the whole Pathfinder thing when they switched
Oh,
away
I
from it.
have played Pathfinder a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, but then I moved, I guess it was 4 that I played in,
Okay.
although I didn't know it. I actually thought until just probably a couple weeks ago that I was in 5th edition
Oh.
because it just I don't know. I just didn't know. And someone disabused me of that. They were like, "No, 5e didn't come out until like what, 2014 or whatever." And I was like, "No, no, no."
Oh, man, I wish I could have seen this conversation. I bet it got good.
Well, I was outed as an idiot because they're like, "Go look it up."
Like, "No, we play the
So I
good one.
did.
You play the hated variety."
So, but I didn't know any better. Like, I
Mhm.
had fun. It was a great group of people. We
Yeah.
had minis and, the map laid out on the table and snacks, and it was just great. And, my first set of dice that I picked out myself at the game store. And um, then it was a little while before I could play again because there was, life stuff. And
Mhm.
then
And now
I
at this
went
point, were you a player or were you DMing or both?
only playing.
Okay.
Um, and then I went back to 3.5 with my sister and her boyfriend and group of people.
Mhm.
And then when I started the server, I was talking to a friend of mine and it was like, "Well, you're a nerd. I'm a nerd. Our friends are nerds. Why are we not actually playing this anymore?" And so we started the server. There was 11 people, which
Nice.
was a huge party. 10 people for going
Yeah.
through initiative.
Oh,
But
man.
it was my first time being a DM, and I was just like, the typical um overconfidence of a writer. I was just like, ah, nah, I got this, no problem.
I can wing it.
And chaos ensued. Most of the people had never played D&D before. So
Oh,
not
wow.
only like so I was like, okay, well, we're gonna do a one shot to kind of ease you guys in before we start the actual campaign.
Was this a published one shot or was it homebrew? Something that you had
Um,
created?
it was a free one, Wild Sheep Chase.
Oh, yeah, I love that one. I
Yeah,
played that with
it's
my,
adorable.
nieces and nephews over Thanksgiving one year.
Yeah. And I loved it because there was a pun in the thing, and I was just like, "Ah,
Mhm.
I gotta go with the pun." But, yeah, so it was funny because, One of the players, also a friend from LinkedIn, he is a vegetarian in real life.
Okay.
And so they're in the tavern and they're doing whatever, and the sheep comes running in with the scroll in his mouth, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and have you guys roll initiative just to kind of keep it orderly as you guys decide what you're gonna do.
Hmm.
And he rolled the highest initiative, so it was his turn first. I'm like, okay, what do you do? And he's like, I take the scroll and I kill the sheep. I'm like, no, does anybody want to like convince him not to do that?
The vegetarian. We're having mutton tonight, boys.
If you kill a sheep, the game's over. So I guess we're done.
Good job. Everyone gets 5 XP. What do you think of D&D, guys? You
But
like it?
that pretty much set the tone for that game. It was just
Oh man,
craziness from that point on, and
that's awesome.
yeah, it was. It was a truly fun game, and seeing everybody just kind of get into their characters and
Well,
then
there's something
make their
magical about
decisions.
playing with someone for the first time where they're like, okay, what is this? Like Risk? What is this? Monopoly? What am I doing here? And then like that moment when they realize, oh, I can I can do anything. Like that, that freedom that
Yes,
TTRPGs give that like no
mhm.
other media really offers.
I think that's why I like 5e.
Yeah.
Sorry to those of you who like the older editions. I have nothing against them. Nothing at all.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
the Baldur's Gate 3 just came out
mhm.
and won Game of the Year, and it's based on 5e, right?
Yeah, but okay. I have a pet peeve about Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not a gamer. I don't really play a lot of video games. I haven't since I was like 9. But teach their own, play the games, whatever. Um, but all I've heard about that game has been how to have sex with the
Yeah.
NPCs. So like I posted about it on Facebook. I was like, "So is this some sort of like weird sex thing based off of D&D, or like what's going on with this?" And they're
Yeah,
like, "What do you
that is
mean?"
really weird. Like,
And I was
why
like
why
I'm
is
like
that a thing in video games right now, right?
the only thing I see is like, you know, love me mommy, and it's a picture of the tiefling one whose name I can't remember right now. I'm horrible with names.
Can you well, have you ever had anyone try to do that kind of stuff in your games? Because, like, I feel like there's a certain group of people that, like, expect that to be an option, and I'm just like, "I'm sorry, if I'm DMing that." Right? Like, have you ever like, so I went on a family vacation, and we were listening to an audiobook, and it was me and my wife, and my parents are in the back seat, and it's a dude reading the book, and he gets to a love scene, and he's doing both like the men and the woman's voices, and like it was the most like cringe inducing, like miles were going by where I'm just like squeezing the wheel like oh.
Can we fast forward?
And now
Uh,
picture that happening at your table while somebody maintains eye contact and they're into it. And I'm like, no, I can't. No, I'm done. I'm done. Where's my X card? There's my safety tools. If anybody wants to get into that weird stuff, I'm not. That's not why I play this game.
so I want to preface this with I'm a pervert. Um, but
Okay. All right. Thank you
but
for being
I
open.
tend to I tend to try to adapt to the players at the table.
Hmm.
If I know that they're more reserved, or they want a full on battle, like hard survival kind of game, and they don't want all the romance and whatever else, like I try to adapt to how I know the players are and what kind of game they're looking for.
You
um
got him. Right as he's taking a drink, he said, "I'm a pervert."
Thank you. I've done all I've come here for. I'll leave now. No. Um, no. So one of my players for my original game came to me, and he's an interesting individual. Um,
It's always the
he was
interesting ones.
he was like, "I have an idea for a solo game that, if you could run it." And I was like, "Sure. What's this solo adventure?" And he's like, "Well, I was thinking of this character, Finn Smallschlong, and he's looking for the perfect penis.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
an Aasimar paladin, this
Well, he
tall,
would.
good-looking, beefy guy, perfect in every way until, he gets in the bedroom and then, you know, the moans of pleasure turn into jeers of laughter. And I was like, I'm a pervert, so sure, let's do this.
Wait, time out, time out. Like, this guy was wanting to play this adventure. Like, that was the character he wanted to get into.
Yes.
I'm just trying to get my head around this. He's like, okay, I can be anything I want. We can, he's like, what I really want is to go one on one with someone, and then
Oh, it
I
gets
want a
better.
character who is got shrinkage.
It totally gets better. So,
Okay, good.
um, so then he was like, because the friend, our mutual friend, was the one that started, like, had the idea to start the game with me.
Okay.
So he was like, yeah, but I want him to play too. And I was like, okay. And then um a third friend was like, oh no, I totally have to be in this game. So, and that was a girl. So
All
two
right.
guys and a girl. And so I was like, okay, if we're gonna do this, we have to do it right. Like we have to make it just totally ridiculous. And so, he had already picked out his character's name. Uh the guy,
Are
I'm
you a
gonna I'm
fan of
gonna call
spelling
him I'm
names?
gonna call him Jay because I don't know if he would be okay with me saying
Oh,
his name, especially in relation to the story. So I'm gonna call him Jay.
all right.
Um, so got a little more clever, and he decided to make a kobold artificer with a mech suit, I might add,
Nice.
um, named Fallius Fog. For those of
I
you who
love the
don't know,
names.
Around the World in 80 Days
Yes,
reference.
perfect, perfect. Steampunk, Cobalt. I love it.
Yes. And then
Fallius fog.
we'll call her S, and she went with an anagram for penis. Her character's name was Snipe.
So all of this is set up before game night, right? So like, what are you
This
thinking?
is what we decided before the game, and then they were like, "You come up with you know, the adventure essentially. Here's our characters."
The chat is ridiculous, by the way.
I see that and Laura introduced. Oh, don't we all the jokes. All it like that's why it was so ridiculous. We had so much fun, but
Okay.
I still threw hard stuff at the well, really hard stuff. But anyway, um I didn't even really have to make anything up because apparently the people who draw maps and make up stuff for D&D are also perverts. So, there's the Lady of the Hand Monastery,
Oh my gosh.
and that's a real thing, didn't have to make it up. Um, the goddess that they worship is, I think it's Leviator.
Okay.
She's the goddess of, like, pain and pleasure. She looks like a total dominatrix, her picture.
Hmm.
Like, full on, like, hooks in the skin and everything.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't even have to make it, like, this is written for me. So they're in the tavern and the person comes in and they're talking about how someone's gone missing, and then they hear these weird noises coming from the monastery. So they go and they look and they can hear the sounds as they approach the monastery. And the monastery is kind of surrounded by a wall. And then there's a gate. And the gate's closed. They don't try to unlock it or anything. Um, Jay, in his mech suit, decides he's going to spider climb over the wall. So he does, and he drops down in the courtyard. And standing completely stock still and surprised is an acolyte, just kind of staring wide eyed at him
So
because
how
he's.
big is this kobold mech suit? Like, does it make him as big as a human, or is he like
Yeah,
an actual
essentially
mech?
the mech suit puts him at like probably 6 feet ish.
Okay.
tall, maybe a
So
little
it's not
less.
like the Iron Giant stepping over the
No,
wall. It's
no,
just like a
no.
little kobold head sticking out of like a knight-sized suit
Yeah,
of armor.
yeah.
I love it.
Uh,
Okay.
so he goes over and he opens the door to let the other two in, and the acolyte kind of watches this happening, and he looks like he's about to bolt any second, and then he does. He just turns around and he starts to run. So Finn, small schlong,
Yes.
decides he's going to run and tackle him.
Okay.
So he does, and I'm describing it, and I'm just like, so you land on him, and you hear a, uh, and everybody was just total silence for like 5 seconds. And then uh, they're like, so you have to do all the sound effects now from now on. It's like, no,
No.
no, that was a bad idea. Rewind.
I'm gonna see if I can get Jeffro to do some sound effects like that next time I play with him. That's
But
hilarious.
then they were like, wait, what is going on?
Yeah,
Like,
what just happened?
why is he moaning like that? So it was just crazy. And then that was the tone of that whole it was like a little mini campaign. And it was a craziness, but I never overtly described anything. Like if they wanted to have sex with an NPC or something like that, then it was a fade to black kind of scene.
Yeah, it just happens
And
off stage.
yeah,
Got it.
so I'm totally fine with dirty jokes, bodiness. I'm fine with, the innuendos. I love the creativity behind the stupid innuendo names. But I've gone on to do another mini campaign. Essentially, we created the Mighty Members Guild,
Mhm.
and they help people with their sexual problems. So, um, the second mini campaign was
Is
a
Finn a member of the Mighty Members?
no, he was the client.
Okay.
Snipe and Fallius were members of the
Okay.
Mighty Members Guild.
So
They were
you're cool with silly names because that was
oh
on
yeah.
Twitter. There was like a whole thing about like if we're doing a or we're doing a Lord of the Rings campaign, you know, um, and Elrond Hubbard shows up, who's like a priest of Saurontology. And
Mhm.
is that acceptable at the table? Because some people are like, "Oh no, that ruins the whole vibe of the thing if the silly name comes up." And there's some campaigns where it's like, "Well, we'd like it to be hard edge, but good luck getting player characters to pick things that
Yeah,
match the theme, right?" So sometimes you just got to go with it. So what's your take on that whole thing? Sounds like you enjoy the silliness of it.
I do enjoy silliness, but I also I have some ideas for some more serious games, and I think that it's communication. So if you communicate to the players before they sign up
Hmm.
that this is going to be grim, dark, serious, fear,
Yeah.
trauma, whatever, don't bring me your silly character because he'll die first, probably.
Hmm.
Not because I'm gonna have a vendetta against you, but because you're gonna be doing something stupid and kill yourself.
Yep.
So
You know the type.
I'm not an easy DM.
Well, that's good.
I started out that way. I was the Oprah Winfrey DM who was like, you
Oh,
get a magic item and you get a magic item and you get money and you get money. And then I realized that I was making it really hard to challenge my players because now they were fucking demigods.
yeah.
So
Well,
at level
was there
5.
a certain moment when you realized that when you're like you put together an encounter or something and they just
Yeah.
totally walked right through it like it was
Oh,
nothing?
oh yeah. Oh yeah. They were in a clearing in the forest, resting, and they were surprised by a group of bandits that were hired by the person that they were kind of, going against.
Hmm.
And it should have been a deadly fight for them.
Yeah.
And they literally yawned and were like, ugh, why did I wake up for this? And then proceeded to like mutilate them with very little effort. And I was just like, okay, I'm ramping it up after this. This is stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
It becomes an arms race. Mercurius says
yeah.
a Monty Hall campaign where um, the objects that they get change the power curve. way
Yes.
ahead of their abilities or
Oh, yes, they were, like, level 5. There's no way they should have been able to just trample. I mean, they made one guy pee his pants, he was so scared. Like, yeah. Um, so I made it much harder from there, and then every game since then, I'm just like, "Look, I don't want to kill my players, but I will." Like, I don't
Mhm.
fudge dice rolls,
Right on.
um, and I try to truly challenge them, coming out of the gate, um, just really throwing and, sometimes they get around it still, they're clever or they
Yeah.
know how to use the spells they have or play their character really well and they get around it and I celebrate that. I'm happy for a character, player, whatever you want to call them, to, get through it. But at the same time, like I'm not going to like baby them or go easy
Right on.
because it's supposed to be challenging.
I think that's one of
So,
the most satisfying things is when it just comes about that they come up against something that you don't know how you would solve it as a player. You're like, I don't know. I'm gonna be interested to see what they do. And then when they come up with something, um, and it works, like I'm proud of my guys when they do that. I'm like, well, that's awesome. I never would have thought of that. Good job,
yeah. Yeah, absolutely, like, how about that?
Or if
I
they just get
didn't
destroyed, I'm like, yeah,
even do
you
that.
guys should have run away. It's always an option.
And sometimes it's inadvertent, like, there was a thing where they came up against a banshee,
Hmm.
and these were, like, level 8. Like, a banshee is nothing for level 8. But they all rolled terrible, so when she wailed, down they went,
Yeah,
and then they all rolled terrible for their death saves, and 2 of them died.
it
So,
happens. It
yeah,
happens.
one of them was the cleric. So
Ooh, things just got real.
and then the actual things that I was going to throw at them came in and absolutely, like, wiped the floor with them. The last couple of players, like, I had to recruit new players
Hmm.
to come in and, like, help them because I made it actually too hard. But,
Have
yeah.
your players ever thought of hiring henchmen or hirelings to come into battle with them?
Uh, Not really, surprisingly.
Because
They
that's a
tend
good way
to,
to.
uh they tend to not do that, really.
It's a good way to soak up some of that damage if you need to, but also if your main guy dies, have somebody there that you can just take over and keep
Yeah.
rolling. You know.
No, a couple of times they were like, "It's okay if you kill my character, Liz, like, I already have, like, 10 more waiting in the wings." I'm like, "I understand, because it is a struggle, you've got, like, they give you, 6 spots if you have a free account through D&D Beyond.
Yes.
You get 6 spots, and let me tell you, that is not enough.
Yeah.
That is absolutely not enough. I even if you're not a DM, like, it's not enough.
Yeah. It's well, creating characters is a mini game, right? Do
Yeah.
you have players that take that way too seriously? Like, well, I shouldn't couch it that way. I don't think it's
Min-maxers?
yes. I know
Mm,
that some
yes.
people look askance at that.
Uh,
But I'm like, well, if it's in the rules, if it's in the game, it's meant to be part of it. So,
the way I kinda look at it is everybody approaches making their character differently.
mhm,
I tend to want my character to do well, but I
yeah,
also try to pick things. So I pick the armor and the spells or the weapons or whatever to match whatever character I plan for them to be.
yeah.
Um, Sometimes it works out and they're a really awesome character. Sometimes it's kind of, this one's not so great.
You make suboptimal choices, but they're thematically correct.
Right. Other people, they take the stats and they're like, oh, well, if you combine with this or level this and you get this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I barely understand rolling the dice. Come on. I don't want all that.
Yeah,
But I don't care if someone else does that because I'm still going to kill them in the game.
yeah,
Like, I mean, what I really mean is I'm still going to give them a challenging encounter.
right on.
So,
I had a character. I don't know why I got a soft spot in my heart for kobolds, but my buddy was DMing, so I got to play, and he said, we're going to do a one shot, and it's going to be really high difficulty, and you guys get 2 magic items. I'm like, okay, cool. And so I had I had a kobold who was living in the sewers under one of the big cities, Waterdeep or whatever, and his name was Brew Queen. And my 2 objects were a cloak of billowing, and, and what is the helmet that makes you have your eyes glow red?
Oh, oh, I don't remember that
Dread
one.
helm. It was a dread helm.
Yeah, okay.
And so like my whole shtick with him was he was like a kobold Batman. Like he would just pop up out of the sewers and like fight
His cloak
crime.
would billow out, and
Yeah, and
he
like his
would look
cloak was
totally
billowing, and
badass.
he had the ears on his helmet, and his eyes were glowing red. And I was like, okay, I got and just got absolutely destroyed by the monsters because I wasn't
You
picking
had
the most
nothing
powerful.
useful.
And he would like he was the only kobold in the party, and he'd be going along with them, and then like danger would show up, and he'd throw down a smoke pellet, and when the smoke cleared, there's Dark Bat, and then like acting like he doesn't know that they know who he is, like secret identity. It was so stupid. I was having fun with it, but
Yeah, that's amazing though. Like that's the kind of character, like something comes in. Okay, so I've been playing in a couple of one shots.
mhm,
Um, I created a character. One of my favorite races is Genasi.
okay,
I don't know why, I just love them. But so this was a fire Genasi, and of course she's gorgeous because all my characters are gorgeous
mhm,
because it's fantasy.
Natch, yeah,
And so I was looking up names because I'm a nerd and I like to make the names kind of match what they are. So I was looking up words that meant fire or names that meant fire, and it came up with one that I think it probably is pronounced Fia, but I looked at it and saw Faya,
yeah,
which then the minute I said it, I was like, oh, that's totally a Brooklyn person saying fire.
fire.
So then I was like, well, now I have to do that accent
Yeah, of
for
course.
her. So I totally had this person like, and I did the accent the best I could. Um, and she ended up kind of evolving into a pseudo Harley Quinn
Oh,
in
nice.
personality to go along with the accent. So,
Yeah,
uh,
sometimes like just the character creation will start to dig a groove, and like it becomes destiny, right? You're like, okay, this I know who this character is.
exactly. But it was funny because I had said something about her not being the brightest, and that she was kind of ditzy. So the DM was like, "Yeah, I need you to roll me a wisdom save," and I got like a 19. And he was like, "I thought you said she was dumb." And I was like, "I said she was ditzy. I didn't say she was stupid.
Yeah,
Harley Quinn had a PhD."
right
Like,
on.
so
High
he was like,
intelligence,
"Damn
low
it."
wisdom. Right on. So,
Oh,
what would you say has made the most impact on the way that you play D&D nowadays?
mm. You know, I think it's part of the reason I got on LinkedIn, the reason um, that I play D&D now is like I was completely lost
Hmm.
when my husband died, and I don't really believe in soulmates, but he was probably as close to one as I'd probably get, and we did everything together. So when he was
Yeah.
gone, it was like I have nothing. But then at the same time, I started hiking and getting into photography again a lot, and writing and branching out. I started the podcast through LinkedIn, the Riffle effect.
Hmm.
Um, and I started talking to all these really cool people and getting to know them. And when I branched into D&D, and it was like that group of people were like, "Oh, we can't fit any more games." Um, like I started recruiting other people from Facebook to come in and more games and more people, and I just got to know them, and I enjoy seeing them play. I enjoy playing with them. The different, like, you can play with the same 5 people in
Hmm.
different games and have a different dynamic, a different style of game. You can have this really, hardcore, I'm gonna go through this dungeon and just kill everything kind of game. You can have the really serious, intrigue
Hmm.
and puzzles and all of this, and you can have the silly, like, you know whatever kind of games that we do sometimes, like just total bullshit. And it's all fun. It's all interaction. It's all getting to know these people. And I love it, but it's also like me kind of being me, not me and my husband, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
building your own support network.
Yeah. So,
Would you say that you were an introvert?
oh, I totally am. Absolutely 100%. And some people are surprised by that because I have no problem talking to people.
Hmm.
I'm not a shy person, but
Yeah, there's a difference between being shy and being introverted.
yeah, I get worn down really easily. But the good thing about online interactions is that when I hit that point, I can just shut my laptop
Hmm.
and move away. I don't feel like I'm stuck somewhere
Yeah,
with
you
people
don't
that
have
are.
to make excuses and leave the party, right? Like you can just, all right, good, click off.
Mhm, absolutely. But not to make this all like serious and sad.
No, let's do it. Let's go sad.
Oh, you want sad?
What
Well, let
else
me
is
tell you.
going? Well,
That
I
was
mean,
just
we're joking, but
that
like
was
there
just the
has
tip of
been
the
more.
iceberg, buddy. Oh
There
yeah.
has been more to the story, right? Like, it wasn't just losing your husband, but you had another just
So
really almost like the book of Job, really, when I heard about it.
yeah, 20 from January of 2020 until um the end of last year.
Hmm.
Uh those 3 years have just been so much dumpster fire. Um my mother died in January of 2020.
Hmm.
My husband died in November of 2020. 2021, mostly a blur,
Yeah.
except that um I think I had one of my animals pass away. But most of it was a blur. And then
Yeah.
2022, my grandfather passed away, and I was pretty close with him, out of pretty much anybody in my family. And um, this past year, my house burnt down, and I lost all my animals, all my
Yeah.
writing, all my belongings, all my photographs, like pretty much my whole life. Um,
And if somebody's not a writer, they may not know how much of a blow that part of it was to lose all of your notebooks and all of your ideas and all of your the stuff that
oh
you
yeah,
had been working on or created.
yeah.
But
It was a lot. And I've kind of been struggling since then with the writing because I mean I had, you know, books that were in, rough draft, finished but in
mhm.
rough draft, and other stories and snippets and ideas, and just so much. And um
'Cause a lot of people would say that they had a rough time since 2020, right? With COVID and the
oh
world shutting
sure,
down and
I'm
stuff,
not
and
the
it's
only
like,
person that's had a
w
shit
well,
time.
I'm just saying that, like, they I don't wanna belittle anyone else's troubles, but it had to be kinda hard listening to people talk about how they can't go to their favorite restaurant or whatever while everything seems to be falling apart for you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just kind of reminded myself a lot that everybody goes through different stuff.
Mhm.
And they may have even been going through something that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
And the thing that they could focus on was, fuck, I can't go out of my house right now. Or, I'd really like to go get a steak at a steakhouse and I can't. Like, that might have just been the thing that they were focusing on to kind of, you know,
Yeah.
get over the other
Well, it's
thing.
like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I guess, right? Like
Well, that too. I mean, If everything else in your life is great and then something comes along and kind of derails it,
Mhm.
yeah, you would be freaking out. Like it doesn't, they say, "Oh, first world problems," or, but to the person going through it
Yeah.
at that particular moment, yeah, it's a thing. And so I just like I would absolutely have those thoughts of, "Oh my god, my husband died." But then
Mhm.
I was like, "Yeah, but I don't know what's going on with them. Like I know them, but I don't know everything about them." And so, you just kind of
That's very astute. That is very good awareness. I don't know if everybody has the perspective that you do for that kind of stuff, and I appreciate it. Um, I know also when someone is going through something that's very difficult, um, it can be hard to know what to say. You
mhm.
want to
Oh
encourage
yeah.
someone. Is there anything that someone said or did that really meant a lot to you during that time? And
A
that
friend
others
of
could use as an example, like when someone's going through suffering or hard times, like this is the kind of thing that actually makes a difference and helps. What would you say to someone going through rough stuff based on what you've been through?
um I'm not going to tell him it's going to get better because that absolutely pisses me the fuck off. Like do not tell me it's going to get better. Like no.
Yeah.
Um but definitely commiserate with them and say, "Yeah, oh my god, that fucking sucks." Like
Hmm.
is there anything that you do need? Do you want to just yell and scream and rant? Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to sit here in silence and stare at a wall together? Do you want to go get a coffee and forget
Yeah.
about it? Like, find out what that person wants or needs. Don't just like throw platitudes at them because they will hate you for it. Like, a lot.
Right on.
According to my friend. No.
Yeah, yeah. So
No.
so all of this is going on. Absolute blur. Are you still gaming at this point with D&D and stuff?
Oh, I hadn't even like well, when he died, I hadn't started yet,
Yeah.
not until after.
So it was like a
Uh,
reaction to the loss of your husband.
yeah, but
But
after the
then
fire, I was, and that did help. But I changed up because one of my characters at that point was another fire genasi,
Mhm.
and I was like, I don't think I can really handle being anything that has to do with fire right now.
Yeah,
Like, just
for
don't.
real.
I don't want to do that. So he was like, "That's cool," like make a yeah. Go back to being great so we can, laugh
Yeah.
and have a good time. It's exactly like yeah, that's
For
what it
those of
feels
you
like.
maybe listening while you're driving and you can't glance at the screen, I'm showing Mercurious's comment. He said, "When you tell someone it's going to get better, they're saying hurry up and get over it." Or at
Yeah, that's
least
what it feels like.
that's
That's
what comes
exactly what
across,
it feels like, yeah.
regardless of the words. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
Our dub
yeah,
says,
the D&D was a big help.
"Heard get over it for years after my son died in my arms. Just doesn't work like that."
No, and you'll
Um,
never get over it ever. Like, I mean, that sounds like doom and gloom or pessimistic or whatever, but that's the truth. Like, I loved my husband. I still
yeah,
love him. Even, when I move on and all of that, like he'll still be there. He'll still be in my thoughts. He'll still be part of me.
yeah,
Um, someone who really loves you, someone who really supports you will understand that and know that grief is going to always be there.
yeah. And that you as you how did you just put it? Or maybe it was him. You can't go back to being who you were before.
No.
Like they have to love the sadness that comes along with it. That's going to
Mhm.
be there from now on,
Yeah,
and that's okay. Um,
that was what a friend of mine she said. Um, it's absolutely okay for you to just cry and be a mess and not want to deal with shit and just you know
yeah,
they're always talking about how you need to grin and bear it or divert yourself and don't let yourself get into a depression or anything like that. And no, I'm not advocating, falling into complete can't take care of yourself kind of situation. But at the same time, it's okay to step back from something and just be like, I can't deal with this today.
Yeah.
I can't do this right now. I need to just go.
So what I've gone through is on a different scale. So I'm not trying to compare. Just say that up front.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No.
But when my son was born, um, we didn't know until he was born that he had Down syndrome,
Okay.
and he had problems with his intestines in that the nerves when you're forming in the womb, the nerves start growing from the top down, and at a certain point they just stopped. And so we didn't know what was going on. He was eating just fine, but he wasn't pooping at all. And his
Mm.
stomach was just getting bigger and bigger. And we just had our brand new kid, and like he's in the incubator and we couldn't touch him or anything. And it
You
was
broke him
really rough.
already.
And we had a couple from our church come over and visit us in the hospital, and they said something that I thought was very profound, and you just reminded me of it with what you were saying. Was they said at times you're gonna go numb. They
Hmm.
said don't feel guilty for that. Like that's from the Lord. He's giving you a break. He's giving you some time. Just accept it when you go numb and let it wash over you. And just be grateful, be numb for that minute, and then you're going to pick the burden back up when you're done with it. And I thought that was at the moment, it was exactly what I needed to hear. And that idea that you can't just stuff the stuff inside and grin and bear it, like you were saying, and move on as if it didn't happen. Like, you don't want to let it devour you, but there is a time when you have to face it and like just kind of be in it for a bit
Hmm.
before you recognize what it is and how
Oh
it's
yeah,
changed.
no, ignoring it and pretending it's not there and
Ooh,
shoving it down inside, that's bad. That's not good. That way leads to all sorts of horrible things. But if you kind of allow yourself to wallow in it a little bit,
mhm,
or even like you said, go numb and don't think about it. Just photography, going hiking and being in nature and literally focusing on something else
yeah,
allowed my brain to kind of in the background process stuff, and I didn't have to like have it right in front of me being confronted with it
yeah,
as much. I was able to kind of pick and choose little memories or little things that would surface and deal with that a little bit at a time. Um,
yeah. So
but
here, cautionary. RW says I ignored it until I started using needles and almost lost the rest of my family. So,
yeah.
yeah, this is a heavy
See,
episode.
see,
We
I
could
told you. You were like,
we
"Is there anything you want to stay away from?" And I'm like, "Well, I could totally bring your show down, buddy."
Hey
Like,
guys, check this out. I got some glowing dice.
woohoo! Where'd you get those nifty dice from?
You
Hmm?
made these dice for me. I saw on LinkedIn that you had pressure pots
Oh
and you were
yeah.
making them, and so I was like, well, I got to get a pair. I got to get some Liz Riffle glow in the dark dice.
Oh yeah.
Um, so is that something you were doing before the house fire and stuff, or is that a new part of the
Yeah.
hobby?
Um. No, I had started the dice. I had gotten a very nice present from a friend. It was a D20. It was a very expensive D20, and
Hmm,
I'm poor. So I was like, I don't know how I can give them something nice for their birthday and not spend a lot of money because I don't have a lot of money.
right on.
Uh, so I decided I was going to make him a custom D20. I was going to, do something really cool with it or whatever. I'd never made dice before. I had no idea. Um, so in my typical fashion, I started, watching videos and reading up on it and kind of delving into it. And the more I delved into it, the more I got into it. And then it wasn't just a D20 anymore. I was going to make him a whole set. And then I discovered, glow in the dark stuff. And I was like, I love glow in the dark stuff. I'm such a total nerd. Um,
Yeah,
so I made him this glow in the dark set, and that kind of just
Oh, so the first
started.
set you made was a glowy one.
Yes, yes.
Nice.
um, and I started making my own molds. I started, from I poor person, pressure pot trials
Yeah, well, I
to
put the picture up
yeah,
on the
I
thumbnail.
saw that. I was
I
like,
got
oh
a
my
hammer.
god. It was
Looks like
awful.
you're making moonshine out in the backcountry, out in the holler.
So yeah, I mean, I had a mason jar one that I then put in that plastic 5-gallon bucket because I
Mhm.
was afraid of it exploding. It never did, and it did pretty well. It was just very small. Um, and then finally got an actual like a paint pot from Harbor Freight and adapted it
I love Harbor
to
Freight.
uh, and it works great. And yeah, now I've got all sorts of molds, and
Yeah.
I've branched out into other resin things aside from dice, but dice are just, I'm a dice goblin, so like
Mhm.
I've got them everywhere.
Well, R Dubs was talking about, going to the needles and stuff, and he seemed to think that D&D is a less addictive hobby, but I mean, how how many of us have the right amount of dice, right?
I I wouldn't say it's less addictive, but I
That's
would
right.
say that the addiction is less hurtful
Mhm.
than, say, drugs
Takes more
or
time.
yeah.
4 hours at least at each session, right?
And also it depends on other people to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So, I think that's why it's held my attention so long because,
Mhm.
again, the ADHD, I tend to kind of flit from hyper focused on this thing, then oh, hyper focus on this thing, and then oh, this, and then this. And but this is ever changing. The
Yeah.
games are always different. The people playing in them is always different. Different days, different times. Um,
User stares blankly at walls by painted minis.
I can't do minis. I love them. I think they're adorable, but I don't have the patience to sit there and paint them. I would halfway through the poor little guy's face, I'd be like, "Okay, I'm bored. I'm done."
You just
Like,
dunk it in the pot. This is a pink one.
yes. This is Eric the Red because it's the only color I decided to paint him.
So you're a theater of the mind DM.
um no, actually. Well,
Do you
sometimes.
use virtual tabletops?
I use Owlbear
Oh,
Rodeo,
I love Owlbear. Yeah.
sometimes, when I feel like making the map. Because I've tried putting maps into it, and sometimes it works, and sometimes they don't look right, and it irritates me, so I end up just drawing my own map, which takes a lot more time.
Eric the Red and Matt Black.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I'm stealing that. You didn't say it, I said
New NPC showing up.
it. No. No, that's great.
Do you
Um,
prefer DMing to being a player?
uh, sometimes, I think a little bit of both is really the better thing for me. Like, I love DMing. I love being the little puppet master,
Mhm.
like dance my pretties, dance in my world. Um,
So it's a control issue.
I do have control issues. I'm sorry. Um, I'm not a great person, okay? Um, but no, aside from that, I do love also seeing what other people come up with, their
Mhm.
worlds and their challenges, and just that interaction again of the other players, like getting to be that group of people that's about to go through hell. Like,
Yeah.
I really enjoy that too. So for me,
Is
it's
there
kind of a little bit of both.
is there a certain memory you have, like, of a gaming moment that you had that really hooked you? Like
Hmm. I
was
mean,
it just the first time you played, or was it, like, something that happened that just you still think about today as far as game
uh,
memory?
I think as far as being a player goes, Um, so I don't remember much about the game that I played with my then boyfriend who got me into D&D.
Hmm.
They were very much that let's goof off and just whatever, like, so there was no real structure for me to kind of latch on to. Um, but the idea of the game interested me. So then, and this is how far back it was and how old I am, I was approached on MySpace
Right on.
and
Right on.
and they were like, yeah, we're looking for a couple of ladies to join the party because my girlfriend's the only girl, and we kind of want to even out the numbers a little bit to make her more comfortable. So I met the DM and his girlfriend at a restaurant, and they sat down and we talked about stuff. And my first question was like, can I have a dragon as a pet?
It's a great opener.
And they were like, no, but you could have a drake if you wanted to be, this ranger here and da 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 da. And I was like, that's close enough. I
Hmm.
could do that. And so I got into my character and really like came up with like her name and her backstory and all this stuff. And she was this badass ranger. And then we were in our game, and I turned to shoot my bow, and I rolled a one, and I
Oh,
shot one of my party members. And I was just
perfect.
like, and now looking back on it, I am a infamously horrible roller. Like when I play, my rolls always suck. So now looking back on that, I'm just like, I should have known. I should have just walked away. Like I should have just been like,
Well,
this game is not for me.
how did the other PC react to being shot by you?
I mean, they took it well. It was the hilarity of, rolling that one, and the DM, oh, you turn around to shoot, but your aim is just a little off and the wind blows and the arrow flies into the shoulder of your party member, and it's like, grimace emoji face. Sorry, man. Like, didn't mean to do that.
So Art
You know?
Dubs and I play a game called War Tales, and it's medieval fantasy. You're in charge of a little um mercenary troop, and then when you get into combat, it's turn based. And if you accidentally shoot one of your own guys, because like if they're in combat, it'll tell you, okay, you got an 80% chance to shoot the bad guy, but your dude's here, and you get a 20% chance of accidentally hitting him. And if you do, you just see a little banner at the top pop up that's names the two people involved, and it tells you that their relationship has deteriorated. Like, yep, that's
You
what
are
happens
not
when you
friends
shoot
with
your
so
own
and so
guy.
anymore. It's like, oh man, he was my only friend.
Liz's ability to fit into the group has deteriorated.
Yeah, that's not news.
Nice.
um,
Oh.
I someone said to me the other day, they were like, because they were like, "Well, I've never gotten to play in a D&D game with you, Liz. I I get the impression you're a rowdy player." I'm like, Who's been talking to you?" It wasn't me. I didn't do it.
Which one of those rats told on me?
Those dirty bastards spreading their lies.
So, how many campaigns are you in right now?
Oh my god. Just as a player or a DM or both?
Either, both.
Oh my god. Okay. So I like to alternate my games so that I get more games. So I don't play weekly, I play bi-weekly.
Okay.
Um, so right now I'm guesting in a game that I had been playing in and had left because I just didn't have time.
Hmm.
But right now I'm guesting as that character to help them kind of in a really hard situation. So right now there's uh w- there's one on each Monday, so that's two. Um, two on Tuesdays. That's four. Uh, five, six, seven,
Wow.
8, 9. I lost my sound for a second.
Oh, I was gonna
Uh,
say, were you still counting them up? Like you got quiet.
well, so there's
Last I heard was 9.
nine voice games, I believe, unless I'm forgetting something. 10
Wow.
sometimes, and then I'm getting ready to start two text-based games, two like play by post
Oh, okay. Well,
games.
that those don't take as much time, right? Because you can just
No, no.
shoot it off as a text. How do you
And
keep them
then
all straight? Because
for
like
me it's kind of easy.
okay.
The only ones I really have a hard time with are um the Dragon Heist game that I run and the Tomb of Annihilation game that I run because some of the same players play
Oh.
in those two games. So then I'm like, oh, well, this one. They're like, no, 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 I'm in that one as that one. And I'm just like, all right, whatever. You're all gonna get eaten by a dinosaur. Um, but like, I'm getting ready to start a recorded game,
Ooh.
and it's two groups of four or five. I think it's four. Um, and essentially, they're going to be like in the same place, same universe. Um, and what they do will affect each other, like in the world. Like, so if one party burns a building down or does something, like it's going to affect the other group when they are playing.
Now you're
You
talking.
know, so it's one Thursday a month for each group. So it's
Mhm.
still going to be two times a month for me, but they're it's a homebrewed um what is it? Dragons of Dragon no, what is it? Something Drakenheim. I don't know
Yeah.
the book, whatever the book is.
I
Um,
don't remember all the 5e ones.
something. I think it's Dungeons of Drakenheim, maybe, or
Dragons
something
of
like that.
Dragon Heist. I don't
I'd
know.
have to look it up.
I'm
Um,
interested to hear how that one goes because
but I'm homebrewing it a little bit, so it's gonna be slightly different. But
oh, thank you, authoritative news. That's very helpful. Dungeons of Dragon.
it's Dungeons of Dragonheim, I think. But yeah, so it's kind of this dark, crumbling Renaissance era city.
Ooh.
Um, and yeah, just so the one girl, she's already created kind of this artificer type character, and one of the other players has made himself like her companion essentially.
Mhm.
And then like they're having I told him, I'm like, pick something you've never played before, or um kind of stretch your horizons out a little bit and pick something really fun that you can really RP and enjoy. And I'm going to record it and post it up for people to listen to. I'm not really trying to like become the next Critical Role or make money off of it or anything like that. But I just think that a lot of the people are very creative
Yeah.
and they're fun, and I think it is going to be really fun to listen to.
So, if our viewers want to listen, where would they be able to access that?
I will probably. I don't really know. I will
Is it like a
probably.
podcast? Are you going to be
Yeah, I might go through the podcast thing, or just post it up on YouTube or
okay? Well,
something. I don't.
when you do, shoot me the link, and I'll make sure that the signal goes out because
Oh, awesome.
I think that's part of the secret sauce of D&D is having two different player groups interacting in the same world
Hmm.
and making life hard for each other. Like,
Well, and that's the thing is like they're not necessarily going to realize, like they could think that they're doing something that's going to affect the other party,
mhm.
but it might be something else that they do or don't do that's actually going to affect them because they don't really know what the other party's doing.
Yeah.
They're just going to either see little like, oh, you see these group of people going out of town, you're doing this, or you see in the distance there's a building burning, oh, that turns out to be the warehouse you needed to go to. Like,
Yeah. It may start off like that, like a little peripheral stuff, but it might, like, come to a head as
oh,
well.
absolutely. And I absolutely hope that at some point I'll have to run a, 8-person party of angry people like
PvP.
war in the street.
So, here's another thought you could try, asking the players on both sides if they wouldn't mind for you to run their character as an NPC if the other party comes across them,
Hmm,
right? Like,
yeah.
because you need to make sure that the players are cool with that, because like there's an off chance that their character could die off screen while they're not in charge of them, right?
I mean,
um,
yeah, technically.
but I've had some experiences like that that were just absolutely mind blowing. Where I had a character named Foam the Gnome, and he was a gnome. He was an illusionist thief, which is an AD&D first edition thing, and the Jeffro was the DM, and he had us online on Thursday nights, but he also had a face to face group that he was meeting with, and he kind of told us a little bit about what happened with the face to face group. Not he didn't tell us everything that happened, but he told us what our characters would have heard about, and they came back with 3 dragon eggs, and I mean, it's a long story, but some other guys in my party had been uh, charmed by the bad guy in the dungeon, and
Mm.
my character hadn't realized it yet. And so their job was to get those eggs. And so I had to plot out a heist of how we were going to try to steal the eggs from the other party. And then I had to turn my character over to the DM and say, all right, run it, knowing that this is a
You had
plan I'm
no
making ahead of time.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, how does the plans of one character match up against 6
Ah,
in person at the I was like, he's
I
probably gonna
wouldn't have been
die.
able to do it. I'm like, I'm gonna be there to do my character.
Well, like, so I'm like grilling pork chops, and like all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up while he's telling me what's going on. It was some of the most compelling D&D I've ever played. And so you got to be ready. It may not go that way. Who knows? But you got to be ready in case it does.
Yeah.
Make sure
Oh,
everyone's
I'm
on board.
counting on it because it never goes the way you expect it to.
Yeah.
Unless you just really know the people playing. Like
Hmm.
I have a group. It's they're actually well, I'm running it tomorrow. I call it my chaos and mayhem game. It is all of the players that have been so chaotic in my regular games that I
Yeah.
was like, "Hey, look at this game over here with all the neat shiny things. Like, come over here." I basically put all of my chaotic players in one game, and then I said, "You know what? You want dynamite? Sure. You want lots of loot?
That
Sure.
sounds
You want
amazing.
magic items? Sure.
Yeah.
You get to fight the Leviathan."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. So it's like if you get invited to the Suicide Squad, like is that a promotion or a demotion? Like is it like, oh,
Oh,
you're elite?
they're totally the Suicide Squad, but
Is this
they
like
have
you are the
fun.
elite? This is the best players, or it's like you guys are too dangerous to everybody else. You need to go.
They they were supposed to be rescuing this village,
Hmm.
and they came back from their adventure, which turned into like a side adventure, and then they decided to go back and get their reward finally. And they come into the town, and the town's been overrun by Sahuagins,
Mm.
and
I
there's
love how
tons
you
of them.
pronounce that. By the way, that's how I say it in my head too.
I
But
mean, that's what it looks like to me. It sounds okay.
I've heard other YouTubers call it Sahuagin. I'm like, that's not it. That's
So who again? Say
yeah,
who again? What?
that sounds like that sounds like people drunk watching an Irish soccer match thing.
Um,
Sahuagin. Okay. Anyway.
but so they, immediately go into, the fighting and there's fire and the thing is burning down and the Sahuagins had flying sharks,
Oh my gosh, that's horrifying.
tarlins, and they brought one down and it went tumbling down the stairs and kind of got wedged and it was stuck and there was fire and it was kind of, trying to get loose, so it was causing all this chaos. They killed it, and then they're like, we should take this meat back to the ship and, have it cooked up So they all like grab a chunk of it and start carrying it off out of the town. The town on one side is like all of the buildings are on fire. It's burning, the fire's growing. And I'm like, you're hearing cries for help on the other side of the town. They're like, yeah, 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 we'll get there. We need to go take a rest and eat something. Like,
I hate it for you
okay,
guys, but the steak is fresh, and we want to
yeah.
get it to the fridge.
So so that was how they ended that session, was them going back to the ship with the shark. And then when we started it back up, they're battling the rest of the thing, and I'm like, "Wow, you guys were eating steak. The fire was spreading,
Yeah.
you know, all this stuff." And so they find this building, and there's some Sahuagin in there, and a merchant and his kids. And um so one guy, he's like, I'm gonna cast enlarge, reduce, enlarge, whatever. He's gonna
Yeah.
get bigger, and he goes storming in, and he's like, and I'm gonna swing to punch the Sahuagin, and he rolls a 1.
Oh no.
I'm like, so you go running in, you're huge, and you swing, and the force of your swing carries you around in this gruesome pirouette as your fist collides with the head of the merchant in this
Oh no.
horrific pulpy sound as his skull crushes and blood sprays across the traumatized faces of his children, and he's just
Ooh,
like, no. And I'm like, yeah.
that's what happens when you roll a 1 on chaos night, right?
So then after the fight, though, they then are trying to convince the kids that it was the Sahuagin that killed their dad, even though they were standing there, have his blood all over them from the punch.
Oh man.
And I'm like, you need to roll really, really high for persuasion right now. And then
Oh, it
someone
wasn't
else,
me. Like picking his teeth out of your glove.
he didn't do great, but like, um, then one of the other characters came up and she rolled really high, and um, between the two of them, it was just like, okay, they're not really convinced, but they're just kind of like so shocked. They're in complete shock right now that they just like nod and walk away. Like,
Sounds like an episode of The Boys.
I know. I mean, that personality of that show is that game. Like, that's
Amazing.
what they're like. I mean, at one point, one player was like, "I want my character to die because I have a new character idea."
You're
I was
like, all
like,
right,
"Okay."
don't give me a blank
So
check like that.
so it was playing a female Aarakocra,
Mhm.
and she was this very promiscuous, like wanted to rape pretty much everybody because her idea was to have a baby with everybody and make all these like half Aarakocra
That sounds like
children.
a monster out of mythology, right? Like,
I mean,
that's Loki's wife, I'm pretty sure.
so, um, yeah, I mean Loki was Sleipnir's mother, so
Mhm.
if he can be the mother of a horse, I mean, whatever.
Yeah,
But don't bat an eye.
yeah,
Don't bat an eye.
things got
Uh,
weird.
so she was this weird kind of Aarakocra character. So he's like, uh, she'd been injured and she had been attacked by one of the sharks, so she was kind of stuck in its teeth.
Mhm.
And rather than save her, one of the other players ran over and stuck dynamite in her beak and exploded her.
Oh my gosh.
And then he was like, "Okay, I want her girl parts to land on the guy's arm and freak him out so it
Oh my
distracts him so that they can kill him." And I was like, okay, first of all, she's an Aarakocra. I can assume that she has like a cloaca instead of like girl parts.
You're like, all right, guys, we gotta stop. I need to do some research. We need to figure out what an Aarakocra has.
So then he's like, okay, fine. Her cloaca goes flying across. I'm like, this game, I
Oh,
tell you, I don't even. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I was that was not on my bingo card
no.
for this episode was that we were gonna say cloaca 3 times.
Clo Cloaca, cloaca, cloaca.
Don't
Uh,
call, you're gonna summon one. It will appear.
trying.
Yeah.
But
Um,
that is what I love about D&D. Like, okay, that's totally silly. It's ridiculous. It's over the top.
yeah.
Most groups would just be like, "Dude, no, that's not acceptable. Like, get the fuck out with that crap." Like, no, we can't have that.
Yeah.
But I think it's in a deviant sort of way. It's creative.
You've got a special
Like,
room set aside for those players.
yeah.
It's like the alternative high school. To get smoke
they're my
breaks.
s- they're my special players.
I
Very
will say
special.
one of the cool things about having a glow in the dark dice is that if it rolls really well, you can reward it by charging it up with a flashlight. You know, you roll a natural 20, you're like, oh, you did a good job, thank you.
Oh, give it a little burst.
Yeah, get a little glowy glow. Been having fun with that.
Oh yeah, the
Um,
green ones especially are really nice. Like I was very happy with the glow of those. The blue purple ones are nice too if you can get them under a UV light.
yeah, well,
But
you said yeah, get it under UV light or direct
mhm,
sunlight. My problem is, like, I'm in Michigan. We shoveled
there's
our
no
driveway.
sunlight.
Yeah, we we
There's
shoveled our
no sun.
driveway twice today. It's just
Oh
like a
yeah.
white perma cloud over the whole sky.
He gets to
Um,
come out of the dungeon and be in the light.
yeah,
Like if it's
but
bad, it goes
the
back.
other thing that's cool too is when you got like a pouch of a ton of them. You know, like you got your big bag of dice. Um,
Uh,
you throw them all in there, and then you look in there, and you can see the glowing ones just kind of
oh
like
yeah.
softly radiating magic throughout the
Yeah,
rest of the dice.
even though I make dice, I still buy dice. Like it's stupid.
It's a problem.
Because I see stuff and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
could I make this myself? Yes. Am I really going to? Probably not,
Have you seen
because I'll
Lenny?
always get into something else. Yeah, I've got some of those. I
I like
actually
this.
plan on making molds of all the weird ones I have
I
so
like
that
the
I
Arc
can also
D4
make
way
those.
better. It's hard for me to pick up a normal D4, like especially the really smooth
Because
ones. I
they're
got
so
this little black
pointy.
one, and I'm just like pinch it. It's like a watermelon seed. You just chase it around on the ground.
And everybody's like, "Oh, Legos hurt so bad. They're terrible.
Mm,
They're little hell bricks." And I'm like, "Try stepping on a D4."
yeah. Well, especially like a sharp cornered one, like that thing's going in
Uh-huh.
the sinew. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, oh, no doubt, like, when I was, like, painting them and
Hmm.
polishing them and stuff, like, I have little puncture marks on my fingers
Oh,
from because well, I had your sets, and
yeah, the
then,
D8.
I had a couple of other ones that I was doing, and then I did dice for people as gifts. So, like, I did a lot. I was polishing and painting and stuff a lot just before Christmas, and like, my fingers were bleeding. Like, it was stupid.
So what is your process, if you don't mind me asking? Like for
Um,
creating a set, like someone like me reaches out and says, "Hey, I want 2 sets." And you say, okay, here's the stuff you can make it out of. Here's the colors. We can mix
mhm.
them and stuff. And I tell you what I want. Like, what happens next? Like, I'm assuming you've got like bags of powder that do something, right?
Well, yeah. So there's mica powders, and those can range anywhere from, like, the glow in the dark stuff to,
Mm-hmm.
um, metallic-y colors, solid colors, highly pigmented, stuff that's really just kind of glittery. Um, and then there's glitter of various, super fine, ultra fine,
Yeah.
regular, chunky shapes, whatever. And then there's the inks, the pigments themselves, which are either alcohol based, usually. Um,
So it's not just manufacturing. It's there's an artistic
oh,
quality to it where
absolutely.
you're choosing how the parts are going to interact.
Hmm. Yeah,
Cool.
there's different techniques and um, things that you have to do. And that's just for those kind of dice. And then when you get into things like the liquid core, which is, the ones that have the little sphere in the middle that has the glitter and the liquid and stuff that
Oh
floats.
wow.
It's all different techniques. It's all artistic. It's kind of about envisioning what you would like the die to look like when it's finished and doing what you need to do to make that outcome happen. And it doesn't always. There's been plenty of times where I've pulled them out of the molds and been like, "Oh, this is not what I envisioned at all." But it still looks really cool.
So you
It's
have a
just not the
silicone
same.
mold, and then you said is it in a ball jar, or do you use like a plastic
I have a
cup, or
I have a regular pressure pot now.
okay.
Um, I have graduated into the big kid, pressure pots. But yes, I have various dice molds, some that I've made, some that I've bought, um, trying different types
Hmm.
they make different ones, so you kind of have to pick the ones that you're comfortable with or that you really like using. And then yeah, you use the various powders and pigments and techniques and what they call inclusions, which are like bits of like cellophane or um, some people put little mini um, items in the middle, or I've put like gears in some, and
Oh,
I've
cool.
done like precious semi-precious stones and things like that.
I think I saw a clear set with like tiny rubber ducks in it once.
Yeah, things like that.
Yeah.
Um, there's really the sky's the limit as far as like, and then some people they make a set that don't have the numbers on them. They're just flat-sided,
Hmm.
and they then wrap them in fabric or vinyl or
Hmm.
whatever material they want to use. They cut it to fit the sides, and then they put those in another mold that have the numbers, so that it basically makes like a little case, and you can then use some of the stuff that is would be harder to do with just the one
Wow.
mold. So yeah, people get crazy with uh, what they do with them. So
Interesting. What is there a set that you're like especially proud of that you're like, man, this I had a vision, I made them and it came out exactly how I wanted.
yeah, the set that I made for my boyfriend actually. Um, so I I'm a big Pink Floyd fan,
Okay.
and uh, these dice, part of them were kind of this black with little tiny flecks of glitter, like not anything really overt, just little flecks.
Hmm.
So it kind of looked like, space or something like
Starfield.
that.
Yeah.
And then the other part was this really pretty translucent like electric blue color. And then I put the kind of iridescent inclusions into it. And you could only really see them mostly on the blue side. So it very much looked like the iconic Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon,
Yeah.
prism with the rainbow. And I didn't even realize it until I was sitting there and I was polishing them, and I looked down and I was wearing my favorite Pink Floyd shirt, which is that picture. And I'm looking at these dice and I'm looking at my shirt and I'm like, I don't think he's going to get these. Like, I think
Yeah.
I'm going to keep these.
I don't want to
But I
waste them on
didn't.
him. He's not going to understand.
I didn't. I gave them to him, but like I was like so tempted. I was like, man, these I have to keep these. They're just
Did you take a
they're
picture of them
perfect.
at least?
I did.
There you go.
Um, I will show them to you at some point.
Cool.
But yeah, I like the creative process of it. I love um like 3D printing, and like that's my next thing is printing masters so that I can have different fonts, different
Oh yeah.
stylized numbers and pictures and things on the dice. And
How do you polish them? Do you use like a Dremel, or you hand polish them?
I hand polish them
Wow.
with they're called Zona papers, and they're basically very, very, very fine grit So it's like there's regular
Yeah. Well, I mean, this
sandpaper.
thing is like smooth as glass.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, like
And
it's
then
time
acrylic
consuming.
paint for the numbers.
Yeah,
See if I can get that to zoom in.
that's pretty good.
Yeah, love it. Well, that's something that it's adjacent to the D&D hobby, but I had no idea about everything that goes into to making those dice, and it seems like it could be a good side hustle. Like you set up an Etsy store or something like that, and
Maybe if I'd gotten into it like 5 years ago.
oh, okay. Would you say
There's
it's not
so many
saturated?
people, like
Yeah.
everybody makes dice now. Um, but it's still something like I think it's cool when other people are like, "Oh, I want to make my own dice." And then they're like, "How do you do it?" And I like kind of tell them and they get all excited and they're like, "I'm going to do this." And I don't know. I'm not a salesperson. I've never been that kind of like, "No, no, no. You should just buy my stuff instead."
Hmm.
Like I'm like, "Yeah,
You're
yeah,
all
yeah.
giving
Go
them
do
tips.
it."
Here's one you should buy, and here's where you get started. And
Yeah, absolutely. I spread the joy, like, but it was really cool. We did a few like craft show kind of things
hmm.
over the summer and fall. Because I do like I'll make like canned things, like I can stuff.
Oh yeah,
And
that's right.
so I had like my resin stuff and I had my canned stuff and we set up in this one. It was on Friday the 13th, and it was an evening show. And so we had kind of the spooky Halloween stuff because it was in October.
Right on.
And then, the Friday the 13th stuff. So there were people in costumes, and it just had this very like fall festival feeling.
Hmm.
And our table, it's all colorful. And I had a little bucket of free candy that I was handing out to the kids. And then in front of it was this like iridescent skull platter with all my little individual dice on it. And these were just dice that I had made that maybe the numbers weren't painted quite right, or maybe they didn't come out the way I wanted them. So, like, they're just in there. And they
Hmm.
were just $1 a piece. And I couldn't believe how excited people got. Like, they were literally just standing there, like, picking out these dice. And I'd
Yeah.
ask them, like, oh, so you play? And they're like, oh, I hope to someday. And I'm
Huh.
like, so they're just buying dice. Like, they don't even actually play, they just
It's
want the
the
dice.
it's the first step into a new world.
Yeah, so it's like it's the gateway drug.
And
Get
you were
them
just
get them
selling
on your
off your
dice.
scrap. Like those weren't even the custom.
Yeah, they
Those are
weren't
just like, well,
even.
I'm not going to use these. I got them left over, and they're going like hotcakes. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
and I
Like
was
a
like,
farmer's
"Yeah,
market type vibe.
if you buy 6, you get a 7th one free," which, I mean, $7 for a
Yeah,
set of dice is pretty decent, and,
that's really actually decent.
yeah. Yeah, so they loved that, and,
Maybe you should
um
do $2 next time,
See, I'm not a salesperson.
right?
I'm just like, "Here, take my dice."
Hmm.
Yeah, um but, like I said, they were the ones that, I wouldn't look at them and be like, "Yeah, this is okay to give to somebody who paid me to make them a set of dice." Like,
Hmm.
I try very hard to make those dice, like you said, they're smooth. I spent a lot of time polishing them.
You
Like,
put a lot into it. You bleed for
yeah,
this hobby,
uh,
and I mean
literally.
that's one of the things that like that's why I'm even getting to talk to you right now. Um, you were a little self conscious about this second set of the purple dice, and they're
Yeah,
awesome. I love them,
I wasn't
and
happy with them. I
you
wanted
were like
them to
they don't
glow
glow as
without.
good as the other ones.
Yeah,
I'm not happy, and so I was like, all right, I'll tell you how you can make it up for me. Um, although
come on my show.
you totally didn't even need to make it up to me because I'm thrilled with them. But
Mm,
I'm glad you're able to come on the show. Share about how you do this D&D thing, this hobby that we all enjoy. I'm a Johnny come lately, honestly, to the hobby. I played Star Wars D6 back in the day, back in the
mhm.
90s. And then once I went to college, I kind of stopped playing tabletop role playing games. Like I'd started with a game called
Traitor.
BattleTech that was like a war game,
Uh-huh,
and
I've heard of it.
Star Wars fired BattleTech, and then we were all about Star Wars D6 for a while, and then Warhammer fired Star Wars,
Mm,
and then college and I craved the attention of the fairer sex, and it just D&D isn't always
And
the best
it was
avenue towards social life. Although
yeah.
nowadays I think it is. And looking back, I'm like, I wonder how many social experiences I missed out on because I didn't think of it in the right capacity, right? Because
Well, and that's the thing is, like, sometimes it takes, like, somebody I've had plenty of girls in the server who were like, "Yeah, my boyfriend played, and then, I got into it, and then I really liked it." And, then there's other ones who they've just been nerds,
yeah,
from the get-go, and into it. And others that they want to play, but they feel very um intimidated by
yeah,
the fact that there's, 3 guys for every girl usually. you know
that's
and uh like, and you see a lot of it in on Facebook where a lot, like, a picture will be posted and it'll be like, an attractive piece of artwork, a half naked character or something. And
hmm
there's a lot of the comments of, "Oh, totally would hit that," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, and
yeah,
this is why girls don't want to play with you in D&D. It's not
yeah,
because there's no girls out there that like D&D. It's they don't want to play with you.
yeah.
And and I mean, that sounds really mean because they're
It's not
totally, like, it's fine. I don't care if you wanna, like, ogle a girl, but also don't question why you can't get any girls to sit in at your table
though.
if you're going to kinda be that way.
You need to get the body pillow out of the chair so that the real girl can sit in it.
Yeah. And then they're
Make
like,
room for
"Oh,
my waifu.
don't look at the boobs, come play D&D." And I'm like, "Or you could have somebody that has boobs that also likes to play D&D." Like, we do exist.
That's hilarious. Oh man. Is
Yeah,
so
first I'll take you swing dancing, then we'll go dungeon delving. Exactly. A little
that's
bit of
how it
both.
should work. That's that's objectively correct social interaction. Um so I try to go for an hour on these things,
Oh, oops.
but we blown past it. But that's fine. I don't want to cut anybody off and stuff. But I also want to respect your time because I feel like this has been a really amazing episode.
Yeah,
It's not the
normally
normal fare. I don't know if it ever was going to be having Liz on.
no, no.
She's
You
one
should
of
have
a
known,
kind.
buddy. You should have
Yeah,
known.
you should have known. Was there anything that you were hoping to talk about that we that just didn't come up yet?
Let me see. We covered trauma, we covered depression.
Has there been any sickness that we need to cover?
Oh, my knees no, I'm kidding.
I got bursitis in my shoulder. I was hoping you'd ask me
I
about
got arthritis.
it.
I'm old. I'm creaking a little bit. No. Um,
Oh man.
oh, no, I like my evenings are generally spent either playing D&D,
hmm
um, sometimes I read, um, and watch stuff or whatever. Like, so, like, my evenings are just kind of like whatever I do. Um,
Have you found that reading helps out with D&D?
it does, but then I kind of start to have that, like, that fear, like, I'm, coming up with an idea for a game, and then I'm like, "Wait, did I just read about this in a book? Did I just, like, am I stealing someone else's, idea for this? Am I, semi-plagiarizing?" Like, uh,
I say
uh,
steal with impunity personally. Um I did a video a while back where I was talking about and as a writer, tell me if this resonates with you or not, but I've heard it said of writers that they have this kind of net that they drag behind their head. And as you go through your life, things just kind of get stuck in it, little bits of detritus. And every now and then, two things will connect in the net
mhm.
and it will become interesting. And that's where you get the idea for a story. That's where you get the germ of what could be a short story or eventually a novel or something like
Mhm.
that. But and you don't even necessarily know when it happens. Your subconscious may do it while you're sleeping. But it's usually the intersecting of two different ideas that come together in a way that you're like, wow, there's something there.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like playing D&D uses a lot of the same muscles as writing.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
you're saying this and not that. It's an exclusionary process where you've got like all the monsters in the monster manual and you're like, this is the one that they're going to be dealing with. You've got all the bad guys, all the choices, all the scenarios, and you're like winnowing it down and saying this is the story. um and so I feel like the more I read, and like especially because I've been trying to play these older school games, I've been reading older school fantasy and science fiction.
Mhm.
Let me grab it here. In the back of the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons first edition, Gary Gygax posted Appendix N, which is a bunch of the books that he felt kind of fed into the creation of this game. It's a genre simulator. It's fantasy, science fiction, post-apocalyptic, and so I've been trying to read the books that are on that list, and I found there are little bits and pieces that I can just steal and use.
Mhm.
I've been playing a game called Blackworm of Brandonsford with some of my friends. We're not even playing D&D. We're playing Forbidden Lands. So it's a different system. It's all D6s and stuff. But they came across a witch's hut in the woods, and I had read Three Hearts and Three Lions by Poul Anderson. And there's a character in there. And because I read that, I knew exactly what she wanted. I knew how she would speak, even.
Mhm.
Like I knew like she was gonna downplay her association with like powerful demons, and she would call them wee sprites and things like that. And it was a very usually I'm not really big into the whole acting out the NPCs. I'm like, okay, you go to the shopkeep and he's got leather armor for this much money, but I just went into it. And I
Oh.
leaned into her character and I was talking up a storm, and it was all just right there. And it was because I had kind of fed into that net with some fiction that I'd been reading. So I guess all that to say, it's your table. It's a game. Don't feel bad for plagiarizing. Completely rip off. I mean, if it's good enough for Harvard, I didn't mean to
Oh.
get political. Did not mean to get
Ouch.
political.
That was what we were missing.
Oh yeah, we had gotten everything but getting canceled. That was the only thing we hadn't done on this show.
Sex,
Um,
depression, trauma, D&D, dice, writing, political.
we
There
don't
we
talk
go.
about that.
Wanna throw some
You
religion
can
in
you
there
can
while
take a
we're at it?
picture of a tree that looks like a cloaca and put it on LinkedIn.
I'm
But
going to.
yeah,
Does this look familiar to you
you
guys? In
remember
fact, I
that
think I
one?
did. Yes, I did. I posted, it
It
was
was a
a tree
mossy
that I'd
tree.
taken while I was hiking, and it had this weird kind of, formation in the bark,
It
and
was
it
it
very
was
much looked like
suggestive.
yes. And I was just like, "What does this remind me of?" And, of course, everybody had a field day with that,
Yeah, it was hilarious.
watching people try to be professional while wanting to also be dirty, dirty people is
It's like
amazing.
it's like I want to be in her main campaign, but I don't want to get shunted into the chaos one. Because LinkedIn is not for the chaos campaign. That's
No,
Twitter.
no, and that's I think it's why I enjoy it so much because there's definitely a group of people on there who they're disruptors.
Hmm.
They're not necessarily the foul-mouthed, people like me who are just like, "Yeah, fuck whatever." Um, but they definitely enjoy bringing color and character and
Hmm.
fun and being silly and just irreverent humor, and those are the people that all kind of circle around my posts. And then I go and circle around theirs, and then
Yeah.
like so we're all just this big little group of pain in the asses for the people in LinkedIn who are like seriously just trying to like sell their businesses
Yeah.
and write their resumes.
It's a
And
palate
we're just
cleanser
like,
for all of the
whatever, dude.
look at me that's on LinkedIn, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of like, hey, look what I accomplished and look what
You
I did and stuff. And then you're like, what
you
does
hear
this look
something
like?
about a brand and you're like, yeah, brand this.
Yeah. I so I this is one of the things I'm learning about myself. I don't feel like I can entirely trust a person if I haven't been or haven't been able to be silly with them. That
Mm,
goes a long way with me. Is like if you can
yeah.
be silly, if I can tell you don't take yourself too seriously, like you can have a laugh and stuff. There's just
I don't
something
take myself
primal about
seriously at
that.
all.
Yeah, there's something
And
primal about that calls to me in a deep way. It's like, all right, let's be silly together, and I know I can trust you.
I think that was something someone said to me, after all of this crap that's happened to me.
Hmm.
She was kind of like, I'm kind of in awe of you. You're like a swan. You're always graceful, even in the face of all of this stuff that's happening to you. Like, we never see you a mess. And I was like, that's because I don't post that shit for everybody to see. You don't get to see the snotty face and the
Yeah,
like you don't get to see the panic attacks and the
yeah.
terrible stuff. Like, Graceful is not my, well, technically actually Graceful is my middle name because Anne means graceful.
Hmm.
But I am not a
So
graceful person.
you display the sinuous neck and the white wings and the tail
And
and
the
the orange,
aggression and the
yeah,
because
and the
swans are
orange
very
feet
aggressive.
paddling like mad under the surface doesn't go on
Exactly.
LinkedIn, right?
They see the serenity of
Hmm.
the swan gliding across the water, because I use humor as a defense mechanism, and um,
Yeah,
you know, it's something that if you're not laughing, you're crying. That is a 100% true statement. If you let life just absolutely get to you to where you're just crying all the time, like you can't function because everything's coming at you and you're just ah,
yeah.
um
But if you can laugh in those
you
moments,
laugh.
you
Find
can at least,
something that makes you laugh, even if it's, that kind of tight, borderline, you're about to crack kind of laughter, or laughter so hard that you can't breathe and you don't even know why you're laughing. You're just laughing. Um, yeah, that is the saving grace. That's the saving throw, the death save right there.
right on.
Uh, Not to bring it back to D&D.
No, Liz, I think I can't think of a more perfect ending note. Like, um, I mean, we've just been talking and stuff, but like, just even in just your verbal mannerisms, you're painting pictures of like the swan I mean, you just put a great button on it. So even me appreciating that right now, I feel like is kind of stepping on that last moment.
You're
If this
ruining my
was
vibe, man.
if this
No.
wasn't live, I would totally edit all my BS out and just end right on that perfect note.
It's like, why doesn't the live one
Yeah.
match the edited one? Like, why is it only 30 minutes and this one's an hour and 45 minutes? I don't understand.
Oh, it's well, I barely know how to
I
stream,
edited
and
all
I
of the
don't know
fuck
how to
words
edit
out.
at
That's
all.
why.
The first video that I did that wasn't live, I think like the microphone was duplicated and it was just sounded awful. So I,
Listen, my first podcast was with Travis Storms. I don't remember
oh,
if you were connected with him at all, but
I
he was
I don't think
another irreverent person on LinkedIn, and I
I
was
like him
like
already.
I was like, I need somebody that is going to go along with the insanity because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So my first it was only like maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes, something like that. They got
Mm,
progressively longer as they went along and got more comfortable. And then um but it was literally like talking about how we say all the time
yeah.
or like all the time. So then we started doing it on purpose. So it was like, so like we were doing this thing, and it was like, okay, we have to stop because this is I'm getting upset by this. Like like my first
Awesome.
my first podcast is horrific. So do not
All
feel
right.
bad about anything you
Okay. Well,
do.
when this is done, I'm gonna listen to it to make myself feel better.
Yes, go do that.
All right.
I haven't quit on it. I just kind of I've had it paused because of everything that's been going on.
Mm-hmm.
I've been uprooted, so everything else has been too. But I do plan to get back to it. So I'll probably have you come on the show at some
I
point
would be
to
happy to.
reciprocate.
I would be thrilled too. I would be professional and
You can't come on then. Get out
never
of
mind.
here.
I
Get out of
understand.
here with that. No. People are like, "Oh, what's it about?" And I'm like, "Well, it's about 10% professional and 90% just whatever the hell."
Hmm.
Like, we just go off on weird tangents and learn things like, "Hey, did you know that people that when Shrek came out, there are mothers now who weren't alive when Shrek came out." And it's like, I'm
Oh
so old
man,
now."
that hits home. And the guy from the song, the guy that sang the song, is dead now.
Oh,
Ah, see what I
ugh,
mean about me just not letting you end the show well?
stop. You're bringing me down,
So
man.
slick. Anyway, I have been thrilled to have you on, Liz. This has been a fun episode for me. It was a great conversation. We got some people to spray their monitors with coffee or whatever they were drinking, and
That's always my aim. I like to see them spray.
and if you ever want to come back on, you have a standing invitation, my sister. This has been a fun
Awesome.
time.
I enjoyed it so much. This is cool. I could become addicted to this. I don't
Right
know.
on. All right, see you, everybody.
Bye.
Mm,
Thanks for listening.